Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Gaming Community Establishment Podcast Show once again. We are back, but today we have a very special guest, Joe Baca Jr., and he's on our podcast today to let you guys know what he does and also share with you some more information about how you can get involved with the community. Joe, nice to meet you today.
Yeah, pleasure. Good to see you, DeMarco. Good
Same.
morning.
All right, Joe. So first, to get started off, may you let the viewers know who you are, what makes you you, but also what do you do for the community?
Sure. Well, my name is Joe Baca Jr. I'm the San Bernardino County 5th District Supervisor. I represent Colton, Rialto, San Bernardino, Fontana, unincorporated areas of Muscoy, Bloomington, Arrowhead Farms, and Little Third. And, we represent county, and people don't realize the responsibility and role of a supervisor. We're responsible for 80 departments countywide, many social services, county sheriff, county probation, county jails, and CalFresh, a lot of good programs. It's a lot of responsibility. And also in these unincorporated areas, they don't have a city council, they don't have a mayor, so we're kind of like their mayor and city council all together. So we provide services for these unincorporated communities, and that's kind of just what a supervisor does in a nutshell.
Okay.
But it's a great job and an honor to be here.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it. See, guys, that's very important about knowing who's in your city and who's in your neighboring city so you guys can get involved and knowing how to get involved. Now, Joe, for being on the gaming podcast show, you can probably have some history, too, about the gaming stuff as well, but do you remember your first ever experience with video games, period, or like the arcades or stuff like that?
A lot of experience. I remember my first game was the Pong and the shooting gallery on the old TV.
Yes.
That was my first video game, and then I got an Atari. And Atari, I remember Pac-Man. When Pac-Man came out, there was a line, and it was $40 a video game, which was a lot for the time.
Yeah.
Pac-Man, I remember having the handheld NACO football games, the handheld Pac-Man games. I remember finding quarters, underneath the couches just to play video games.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the big video game explosion, the arcade explosion. But what's interesting now is you look at gaming, I can't believe how it's evolved and where it is today. And now the graphics that you have on your phones and new games today is way more advanced than it was for us. It was very corny and simple back in the 1980s.
Yeah, well, it's have a little start somewhere, right? You guys have like the digital pixels and then black and white, then color, but then 1080p, 4K, 8K, and then now VR now. That's the new thing now, and I've played VR yesterday for the first time. Oh, it's amazing. It's truly mind-blowing how you can put on a headset, you can just go to a different world and have like personal audio for it. Some headsets have like weather control for a little bit for your body, fans or no fans. It's just amazing how stuff can just evolve over time, It's like little test runs, like you said, about stuff can be little miniature, like for TVs, right? So as far as like gaming goes and just like technology, period, small TVs, now you have big TVs. Big TVs with small backs of them, because those old TVs back in the 90s with the big old screen but the fat backs on them, heavy TVs, but now you can just go to either like Walmart, Costco, wherever else, and you get your TVs rolled out to you, or you can have your own partner just help you up with TV with no problems that much. So that's great. So with that said, though, what is your all-time favorite video game, if you have one? There's a lot of choices out there, a whole lot.
It's hard to say. There's just a lot of old games.
Yeah.
I would say classic would probably be Donkey Kong was my favorite.
Donkey Kong.
To see how many levels I could go up.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun one growing up. Donkey Kong was one of my all-time favorites. But I love video games. As you get older, it's become less of a priority. But I'm glad kids get to enjoy the video games. And now what's interesting about video games is there's potential earnings, and people are making money and careers off video games. I would have never imagined that where it is today. But I'm happy for those that had success.
Yes, that's the beauty of it too now, because when we have our tournament, had our tournament in 2019, right before COVID hit, that was in July, we had a gaming tournament in Vegas. We had a whole little corner to ourselves in a big old stadium type. It was a really fun weekend. All we did, video game, and talk to people to get them noticed more. That's all we did the whole weekend. And to see the different people come out in costumes or just networking period is truly awesome, because some kids, sadly to say, is they're more to themselves sometimes.
Sure.
But for video games, that can be like an outlet, and a way for them to network with other people, which is a skill that is kind of going away, sadly, for the new generation. But with events like that and just sharing just information, period, they can get back on the groove about just getting out there, expressing themselves the right way. So that's what I try to do, with my events. But also with that too, for events, when you guys have events, how can us and the community, as well, get involved with what we have going on?
Yeah, so we do different types of events. Sometimes there are community events to promote some of the good things that we're doing. Sometimes they're park events. One of the things they could do is they could call our office at area code 909-387-4565. We're always looking for volunteers to come out and participate in our events. One of the things we're going to do is we're actually going to put together a program. We're going to reach out to the high schools and try to create a leadership academy. So we want to bring them into our office and try to build new leaders for the younger generation. And the next thing we're going to do is in the spring, we want to put together a government day where they could actually meet department heads. They can see a board meeting and get exposed to government. What does it mean? Because most people don't know what government means and realize that government does help us. Can it solve all our problems? No, but it does play a major role in our society.
Definitely, and you hit the nail on the head right there, what you said about getting these kids exposed to leadership and who's who for what different kind of involvements, period. That's what I want to do too, is get people noticed for resources, because rather than just being on social media, just looking at whatever, right? How about we all look at something together to make us move forward with our goals? And not sure if you remember, Joe, but for me, when I graduated Cal State San Bernardino in 2018, my whole 4.5 years there, from my background, I was a mentor for freshmen and transfer students alike, and sometimes staff, sometimes too. And that was fun to get them more in the groove on their path about what they need to take or what kind of careers they need to probably line up for themselves, because it's always good to have a backup plan, when you're in college or high school, period. It's really just amazing. Like for me, myself, I went through at least 5 to 7 career paths when I first started college, right? But, as time went by, I kind of figured out okay, so what's my hobbies? What do I plan to do every day for the rest of my life? And how can I move forward with that while I'm in school? And that broke it down for me, okay, so this path is looking more likely. And then as the time went on, I just crossed out the ones that didn't fit my niche, so to say. And, that's why I'm here now, doing this and doing other things too, as a first responder. Life is going great, thankfully, with that. Has its challenges, of course. It's not easy, but, we make do with what we got.
Yeah, I know you bring up a good point in regards to having a plan. One, with the county, people need to realize there's actually a lot of good job opportunities with the county. And you could change departments. You could, remember, we offer good benefits, good pay, good retirement, things that younger folks don't think about as you start to get 30 and 40. You think about those things. The other thing you talked about is it's okay to change your career. There's nothing wrong with that. I've changed my career several times. I worked in the private sector. I worked as a probation officer, correctional officer, and a teacher, and now here as a board of supervisor. But one of the messages I always try to give our kids or younger generation, have a plan. And your plan can change. And that's okay. But at least you have a plan. But not having a plan makes it very, very difficult. And a lot of times kids take 10, 20 years to kind of figure it out. And by the time a lot of time has gone by. But just have a plan would be my advice.
Definitely, yeah. So you guys heard from Joe himself as well. Have plan B, C, and all the alphabets. But when you guys do have plans for yourselves, don't stress yourself out too much. Just take it day by day. You won't get everything that you need to get that same day when you figure things out. Like I used to have my first month of college. Back then, I was going through different careers, like I told you before, just now, but I was overstressing myself a little bit. I was like, okay, so where can I actually go and take the classes I need to take, this and that. But I just got told from my parents back then, like, hey, you know what? You're good right now. You're in college, so your first step right now is good. Just plant your feet and spread yourself out slowly, and then see where you can fit in yourself. You know, as time went by, and when my parents told me that, that kind of helped me out too. Like, okay, you know what? That's right. I'm still young. Thankfully, I just finished high school, you know, at the time. Got done playing sports, so being always busy, I guess. You know, my mind was always racing to do something, but I had to learn myself to take it calm, take it slowly, sometimes to just see where you want to go in life, and I did that, thankfully. Yeah, so I was doing mentors for four and a half years actually, helping out college graduates still. So like for me myself, you know, I'm on the board of directors for the Alumni Association, too, for Cal State San Bernardino. But yeah, so being still involved with school even after my success, to give back to the kids and maybe even adults too. You know, we all need help sometimes with wisdom, a word, or just where to go for a path. And that's why I want to give back to the community as well, to let them know about my story, your story, or whoever else's story too, to help motivate people to do best in their life.
No, that's great. And DeMarco, just want to say, you know, thank you for your passion. I know that gaming's very passionate. You're very passionate about it, which is good. But I think most of all is you're passionate for the community, the Inland Empire, and everything you want to do for kids and families, and you want to give back. And the fact that you're dedicating yourself to the fire service, which is a tough profession. It's a dangerous job, but just thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. That means a lot to me. Appreciate that. But like with that said as well, where do you see the future of San Bernardino County, or just the, you know, like California period, about maybe certain programs with gaming maybe, or different like mentorship like you said as well? Like I want to say the next 10 years, that's a good start.
Yeah, well, I won't say so much for gaming. I can't predict the gaming industry, but one of the things I can, you mentioned VR, virtual reality. Notice a program that now they can do job training, virtual reality, to see if you like a career. So one of my staff, as a matter of fact, Amanda, participated where she put on the headgear and she was changing oil and showing her how to change oil. They talked about all the different careers, and they had about 50 different careers where you could actually do the work virtually and see what it's like. But I think that's kind of the direction we're going. You know, in the future, you're going to see probably more telecommuting, more people working from home.
Yeah.
Gas prices are going up. I mean, it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
You know, you can hold people accountable. I know that some companies, private sector, have already done that. So I just think with technology changing, you're going to see a change in the work environment. We've had to make adjustments, even with the county. I remember years ago when I worked for the county, it was pretty much 8 to 5. You showed up at 8, you went home at 5. Now, we've got to be a little more flexible. We've got to make sure that we allow technology. You have meetings. So I just think that's really changed government, and it's changed the county, but I think for a positive.
Most definitely, yeah, because it's all about like adaptation, right? And making your workers and people just comfortable, period. Because it's more harder when you go to a job where you have to, like, oh, I gotta go to work today. Like you're complaining about it or being negative about it rather than excited and positive. So that's one factor that I've saw in college too when I studied it for my major, which is like business psychology, of course. But it's very important to have the mind on right set, because for like fitness goals, business, whatever it is, period, your mind is the most important thing on, well, not on, but also in you, because it starts everything, you know, it just makes the whole body go, you know, and it has a function to actually like have a button presser for a certain hormone or whatever else you can think of. Your mind is really powerful, everyone. So it's best to stay in a very positive, you know, environment and just do good and receive good. But like you said earlier about the VR thing, that's what I meant so to say, because it's very important to actually see it before, like, you know, for the military. My dad was in the military too. He did Air Force for 8 years. And then the fire service too, having job simulations like that, like, okay, how to fly like an airplane jet, but you're not really flying an airplane jet, you're in a simulation. That's a safety issue, which is great because you're not training lively, you're training simulation first. And then when it's time for the real stuff, you go slowly on that, and then your mind like, oh yeah, you know what? This is very similar to what we did in training, and it just clicks like that. You know, think of it as a muscle memory, guys. For all that we do, like for a job or working out, or even some kind of other side stuff we do, muscle memory, but also mental memory too. That's very important.
No, you bring up a good point. I think the technology is great, but I think it's important that we continue to maintain our social well-being, because we are human and we do have emotions, and people have to stay healthy, you know, mentally. And sometimes maybe putting technology down for a few minutes and just having conversation, dialogue. I mean, I think we all want to be socially accepted, so I think you have to always keep that in mind.
Yeah, big time. And having too much of a good thing is bad for you. Like too much water is bad for you. And believe it or not, too much air is bad for you, because you need oxygen, of course, but a certain percentage, you know, of oxygen, along with carbon and all that other stuff like that for science, you know, for fire stuff I've learned. But it's very important to not just have too much of a good thing, because sometimes you might get either not motivated to do something, or you might be harming yourself with poison. And that can take many different forms. So to the viewers out there watching this podcast show today, don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid just to get out there with having safety first as well, though, to see where you can go. Because you'd rather live a life where you don't want to say woulda, shoulda, coulda, but you'd rather live one where you said, well, you know what, I did it, or I tried, and it didn't work out, or it did work out. You will sleep better at night, trust me. So that's what that is for sure. So last question, Joe. With the VR stuff going on, and with these prices on different things, do you see the future of work for any type of job period more like a technology base, or still more with the human side component? Because I know some jobs are kind of going away from that now.
Yeah, I think technology is clearly becoming a big part of all professions, whether it's, you know, county government, law enforcement, anything. I think we have to take advantage of the technology. It's there to make us better, but I think it's important that our communication remains important, a big part of success. There's a lot of times when people text or when people email, sometimes the communication is lost. And when people misinterpret that, I think sometimes still you have to have personal conversations, face-to-face meetings. I think that's just important. I think it's important for the social well-being, but just to make sure there's clarity. So, you know, we've all have misspelled on texts, we've all misspelled
Emojis.
on emails, yeah. And sometimes we lose that personal touch, and always keep that in mind. I think technology is great. We need to continue to advance and move forward, because we have to keep up. But also the human side, just make sure we continue to communicate, dialogue, and keep those personal relationships. That will be forever.
Yeah, that's very important, guys. So just, you know, for a small recap, to stay social, and then just to still also have that teamwork component for yourself, but also for other people. Because we never know what someone else is going through probably, or what they can probably think of. Sometimes same ideas as you. Sometimes it's similar, sometimes it's not. But you never know, you know, until you try.
Sure.
That's why I say all the time, for whatever I do, you know, same thing for you, you know, as well. So with that said, Joe, thank you for being on the podcast show today. I really appreciate it. You know, it's an honor seeing you in person and doing this podcast show with you today. But do you have any last words of wisdom for the viewers out there before we head out today?
No, I just want to encourage the viewers to stay positive. I know that we're still coming under the transition of COVID, you know, socially, emotionally. You know, take care of your bodies, mind, and your soul. You have to really take care of your well-being, because, you know, the things you do, you have families, and the things you say and do impact other people. So always keep that in mind, and just, you know, do the best you can. Hey, you know, I think, you know, things are going to be on the uptick in the near future.
Definitely. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And if you ever need some like leadership stuff as well, you know, like for the kids or for the youth, just let us know for sure. And I'll definitely get on it when I can. You know, then if it's not me, then I'll send somebody else here to take my place for me, and we can get it going, because these kids are very valuable, you know, very critical for the next generation. The whole type of exposure they're exposed to these days is a little different than how it was from like what I heard from my parents.
Sure.
how the exposure for media and other stuff was growing up, but now it's just more out there now. So for us, being a resource for you guys as well, to support you, definitely let us know. We can see where we can go from there together. You know, we're all a team here, guys, for our cities, counties, whatever it is, state, world, period. That'd be great. Just be a positive human being. That's what we focus here too on the show and, you know, as a company. So yeah, Joe, thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Okay, thanks DeMarco. Good luck and thanks for your service.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Big shout out to Joe Baca Jr., his team, and gaming community establishment, and to the viewers, of course. So let's all move forward and have a great day and spread positivity.